Welcome back to the Appraised podcast, Navigating Performance Management, your compass to HR success. I'm Rowley Walter, the founder of Appraised, and in this episode, we have the pleasure of speaking with Nokomis Cole, HRIS manager at Maximus UK, which is a global leader in health and employment services and an Appraised client. Nokomis, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me, Rowley. Nice to be here.
Great. Well, thanks for joining. Yeah. Now, in this episode, we're going to be talking about how to select the right HR tech solutions and avoid overcomplicated systems by focusing on solving a specific business problem rather than getting distracted by unnecessary features. I know this is a strength of yours. We're also going to touch on how to ensure systems can be a helping hand in supporting new managers, something that is a topic that's close to my heart. And how we can help those new managers manage employees effectively. So let's get started. If it's all right, Nokomis, I'd love you just to give me a bit more, bit of background on Maximus UK, what it is and what it does, and what sorts of employees and the sort of work that they do. You have.
Yeah, so we are primarily in the government space. So we work on private contracts, delivering government services, so healthcare assessments, employability work, so supporting people who are in long-term unemployment or have barriers to work and helping them get back to work. And we run several sort of contracts and deliver contracts which support migrant help, for example, or people that find themselves in a situation they may not have necessarily wanted to be in when they set out, but circumstances have affected their lives, and we give them a little bit of help and support and guidance and advice in helping them overcome those barriers and get back into the work. So the type of workforce we have is essentially a sort of we have one large area of healthcare practitioners, so we have a very clinical sort of service that we provide, and then we also have other sections of the business which perhaps get their experience much more from life rather than any particular qualifications. So they can sort of work with people, and they've sort of gained experience through life, through qualifications, through their experiences, and helping support and gain skills and support people back to work. So that's essentially what we do. My background's primarily in HR, though, so I'm very much the people side of the business and in HRIS systems now for 10, 12 years.
Okay, so did you start in HR as a sort of generalist and then move into, or were you always a kind of tech-oriented person?
No, I didn't wake up and dream to be a HRIS manager, really, no. As I was playing with my building blocks, HRIS never came into my mind.
Didn't it? Okay.
I like helping people. I think my thing is sort of helping people help themselves, so make a difference and actually not do things for them, just actually support them, pulling on my experience, pulling on systems, pulling on resources around the business, and just actually helping them to do what they're there to do.
Yeah. Funnily enough, I don't think I woke up one day, as a child thinking I'm going to create a performance management system in the future, but it is the same sort of thing. Like I am interested in technology and how it can enable people. I am interested in how you can enjoy your job and how people can get the best out of each other, and how you can improve the manager-employee relationship, and what can software do to help. So maybe similar kind of thing. Anyway, I'm going to quiz you now. So you are in the business of looking at systems to implement, and you have some experience in this. What is it? How do you go about trying to find the right system for an organization like yours?
So we had a little bit of a roller coaster journey. We obviously can appreciate we're sort of a growing business. We've grown very quickly over the last sort of 10, 15 years. And we're constantly changing and developing, due to the nature of the workforce that we have and the people that we engage with. And so we've had a bit of a roller coaster of emotions with our management of performance and like the sort of support, the resources, the tools we've had in place to support our managers. We have a lot of new managers coming in from different organizations. So we very much have an issue whereby we're transferring people in. They're used to doing performance management one way in one organization. We need to sort of say, yeah, that's really good. That's not quite how we do it here. And so I think we have a lot of focus on the system rather than the process. And so part of our journey to joining you guys with Appraised was that we actually wanted to really strip out all of that, oh, we use this system, we use that system, we do this, and actually strip it all down. What do we actually want to do? We want to engage with our teams, with our managers to support teams where they need the support, not worry about them where they don't. So we actually ran a series of focus groups and workshops to find out what were the issues. Why were we not keen to connect with our teams on a more regular, more formal basis? How are we going to manage sort of our performance, and how are we going to manage our compensation processes and things like that if managers not really engaging and talking to people in a way that suited everyone, so the individual, the manager, and the business. And I think our initial sort of round was a sort of a difficult process where we ended up with quite a clunky system because we didn't really know what we wanted, so we looked to the system to help us. The second time, and actually coming to you guys, was actually, well, what do we want? What can your system do? We want people to engage with their teams. We want managers to engage with their teams. We want individuals to feel that they can just check in with their managers when they like. And so we wanted to remove the system from being the primary focus to actually focusing on the outcome, really. And so we came to you guys asking, what can you do to support us with this outcome that we want to achieve?
Yeah, okay. Did you feel like, so you mentioned focus groups and workshops with managers and employees, what was the sort of, did that give you a good sense of the sort of process that would be right for your organization, that was likely, once implemented, to be adopted?
Yeah, very much. The feedback from managers was the key word that came was clunky. We had clunky, the system's clunky, the process is clunky, it's horrible, it's clunky. And so clunky was just the word that I sort of started to hate hearing. I understood what they meant. I mean, even myself as a manager, we used to get to the end of year review process and I think, oh my goodness, I'm going to have a lot of people complaining that they can't do something, that it's clunky, they're having to wait for ages to move on to the next page. And even myself with my team, I was like, oh, I don't really want to do it. So you leave it all to the very last minute and then you don't do it. Whereas the situation in the world now and feedback, we're now sort of 12, 18 months coming up in the process, is that I don't fear that time of year anymore. We literally we have more regular check-ins with managers and so in our teams, and people are happy to have those more regularly because it's so simple to do. You literally just can be having a chat, go into the system and open up a one-to-one. The review process is really quick, really easy. We also have a lot of our colleagues are very time bound, so they're in contact centers, so they don't have, they have to really tightly schedule their meetings in, so they can't be waiting 5 minutes while the page reloads or all of that sort of stuff. So it's been a really nice good set of feedback that we've actually been able to respond well to from using a different system.
Yeah, okay. This will be interesting, I think, to a lot of HR people who, when you're buying a system or commissioning a system, whatever it is, that's going to be used by thousands of other people, it's quite a big personal risk, isn't it? You're either going to get 1,000 people come up to you and say, oh, this is awful. Or actually, what we always hope is people, maybe not thousands, but a few people coming up and saying, do you know what, this is so much better than the last thing. Thank you so much. That's the sort of dream, isn't it?
Yeah, we absolutely. And do you know what? We had a really dream sort of implementation. We had a great project team. We had great people on board, both from the Maximus side in HR, in our project management office, communications. Our comms team played a massive part in that. But the key for us was that we had a lot of our key business leaders were involved in that project as well. So we brought the business with us. You know, very much some of our feedback is like, oh, it's another system, because people move frequently between organizations. They have a lot of systems to learn. And so we didn't want it to be, oh, we've got to learn another system. We've got to do this. We didn't want it to be a drudge. It was just like, actually, you know, this is what we want you to do. This is why we want you to do it. This is the support we're going to give you. We actually had a whole 6 months of sort of promoting our sort of performance management process before we introduced the system. And so when people started to join webinars to look at Appraise and look at the system we were using, they were like, oh yeah, this makes sense, because we've seen all of this documentation, we've seen the process already happening. And actually, yeah, absolutely, that, you know, so it all sort of aligned really nicely. And the business absolutely love it. It's really simple for them. They can pick it up whenever they like. Yeah, you know, you get the odd person that sort of maybe has forgotten to do something and we intervene. But do you know what? The feedback from the business has been amazing.
That's great. That's great to hear. Okay. So what do you think about, you know, Appraise is obviously a dedicated performance management platform, and, you know, from our point of view, we think that's great because it goes really deep, and it means that we can build a lot of flexibility so that it works exactly how an organization wants it to, and so that you don't, you know, as a client, you don't have to sort of compromise and say, well, look, this is how the system works, let's just go with it, which might not be the right way. But of course, you know, what that means is you might end up with several HR systems. You've got your HRIS, you've got your performance management platform, you know, and maybe a rota planning and, you know, a few other things. You know, how do you feel about HR tech integrations in general? And how do you, is that a problem even?
I think it's a problem if the system you're going into is really tricky to navigate. I think I have mixed feelings about it, if I'm honest with you, Rolly.
Yeah.
I'm very much of a view of, you know, if you want a decent phone line, you go to a decent phone line provider. And so the specialisms and people's expertise in being able to sort of support you in the right way in those systems is really important to me. But equally, I'm an end user and I have 5,000 other end users, and I want it to be really straightforward. I've got a really busy day. I'm going from call to call. I'm not sure that I'm not sure I'm too worried about what I'm going into, but I need to know where to go. So I think everything has to look and feel the same, use the same sort of language, be able to sort of look at the same color schemes, so you know that it's sort of your business, your area. You've not gone into some other sort of
Yeah.
part that you shouldn't be filling in. But I I think it should all look and feel very similar in how you navigate around it. I
Yeah.
think, you know, a wonderful world of a system where everything is all in there is great, but equally, I do appreciate the specialisms of individual systems that specialize in that, and I think both can work, if I'm honest.
Yeah. And it's the, you're right. I think it's the specialism of the system plus the, you know, if you've got good account management or customer success team behind it as well, you know, they really know all about performance management and what has worked in other places, what hasn't. You know, sometimes it's quite hard to sort of quantify that, the value of that sometimes.
I feel
But
that
you know,
the
yeah,
best work is around a good integration shouldn't feel like it's an integration to the end user at the end of the
mm,
day. You know,
yeah,
I wouldn't expect anyone in our business to know that this system is actually linked from this system. It's actually fed by this data here.
yeah,
Nobody really should know that because nobody really
yeah,
cares. And but they just want to go in and see that the people that are in their team are still here, and here's their little reviews and all of the things that they need to know about and that they care about. And if we're doing our job right, that is how it should be.
yeah. I sort of also look at my phone. I've got whatever 100 apps on there, and they tend to follow sort of conventions and things like that. And we don't have any trouble kind of navigating a well-designed app, even if it looks different to another one. So I think it's just the world we live in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we promoted our new, well, we call the platform Be My Best. We promoted that by saying if you can book and order a pizza online, then you can conduct a review in the system, and it's absolutely true. You don't need any help ordering your pizza. Well, sometimes I do, to be fair, but you don't need that. You can work it out for yourself. And I think that the beauty of the process, it is simple. It's straightforward. It's like, oh, where do I see my objectives? Oh, I'll go into this, click until objectives. Oh, set it up this way. All of that is familiar to people, like you say. So, I mean, I have hundreds of apps on my phone. And I don't know what half of them are because my daughter has synced her account or something like that. But I know which ones are mine. I know where I'm going and I know what I'm doing with it. And that's not a difficult thing to get your head around, I don't think.
That's right.
Yes.
Did you think about making adjustments to the performance management process or anything like that for different groups of people within the organization, depending on their role or department or anything like that? Or is it pretty consistent?
Yeah, no, it's actually a piece of work that we're just sort of trying to sort of finalize at the moment in terms of we have a group of various sections of managers where they may be first-time managers, don't have a lot of experience necessarily, and or have experience but in a different environment and a different sort of more structured environment where you have very clear, you have to pack 10 widgets in a box, that sort of thing. And sometimes with some of the more softer skills and objectives and goals that we may have, because we're a people organization working with people, sometimes some of those lesser sort of experienced managers or people that haven't managed a team before or managed such a type of team before, we were finding that there was still some reluctance to having some of those performance conversations with people. So it wasn't around necessarily targets and performance, but around maybe behaviors. So if somebody's consistently late, and how do you start to address that? And also a lot of, we grow a lot of our teams from within. So a lot of team leaders would then become the manager. So you're going from being a friend in the team, and you're all pally against the common enemy, and then you suddenly are that enemy, and it's like, oh, hold on, I've now got a different. You have a whole host of dynamics to deal with when you first sit in that manager seat within that team that you've just been part of. And that's not easy to navigate. And then somebody saying, yeah, but all quarter two reviews are due now for these 20 people you've just taken on. And you're like, wow, well, I've got to mark them all as like 5. They're all amazing because you're still friends with them. And so that transition, I find, we've been looking at some of that in terms of reviews, but mostly in terms of probation. So we've been able to give some more guidance and some more guide rails, I guess, in terms of helping managers have those conversations. And actually, I'll tell you something interesting, Rolly. I had a conversation last week where we've been doing some work with AI, and I know we talked about AI last time we talked, and we've been doing some work around AI supporting the performance review process, and actually, sort of support, so a manager can pop into, we have a company sort of chat GPT that we use, but it's you can say, oh, how is the best way to approach conversation with somebody that's constantly arriving late? And so you can actually start to get some support and resource in that way. We have a whole host of resources on our portal and our company portal. We've got, packs for managers. We've got lots of advice, but actually just being able to pop in before a meeting, how's the best way to approach this conversation, and get some guidance and solutions and answers. And so we've sort of, one part of the business has been doing some work in terms of looking into how that can, support managers better. So I'm kind of interested in your views, Rolly, on where you see AI going in terms of managing performance, because I know it's a hot topic.
It is, and I think what your story just there was really interesting, and it's sort of what we're starting to see happen. Like we just know, obviously, even without HR involvement, managers are just using ChatGPT, of course, for all sorts of things. And so a natural thing is to start saying, oh, well, I've got this situation and I'm not quite sure how to deal with it, because they can have a conversation that is completely confidential with ChatGPT. And so it is just happening, that we can't stop it. And on the whole, it's really positive. I think it's really interesting. I think there will be some concerns from some organizations around, well, is the advice being given back correct? Is it, it doesn't know the whole context of the organization or that employee. So it's making assumptions. And therefore, could it be, so it doesn't have a huge context or a huge prompt, and so therefore could you end up with bad advice? I think most managers would understand that the AI doesn't have all the context, and therefore, maybe add to the prompt and do a bit more chatting to feed it a bit more information. So I do think it's going to be incredibly powerful. I think that kind of thing is really useful. There are all sorts of other uses for LLMs and AI within Appraised as well, whether that's giving feedback to somebody on a written summary that they've just provided, or perhaps showing HR which out of 5,000 reviews, which ones should they really take a look at.
Do you know what? That would be amazing. I think that is something that, as a manager, and you know yourself, you have the conversation, what you're trying to say, you're hoping that it's been received by the questions that you're asking in that sort of right way, then documenting it down so that you don't get told off by HR, or you don't put something in there that is going to be sort of thrown back in your face or whatever, or you don't say something horrendous that you didn't actually maybe mean it that way. I think that would be really useful. I think it's just as much support that you can give to people, because I don't actually believe I don't believe people go into work every day to do a bad job or to get it wrong. And so I really feel that managers do care and they do want to support people, but maybe sometimes they don't have the time, they don't have the resource, maybe sometimes they just don't know how. And so as much support that you can give from however it comes, and however those people want to sort of accept that support, is really good. And I do think AI has a good part to play in that. Absolutely. Because sometimes if you haven't been in those situations, it gives you an idea. It may be not the one for you, but it maybe helps, get you thinking.
Absolutely agree. So I think it's really exciting, and something that we're looking at and working on various prototypes and things like that. So I'd love to, any kind of feedback that you have.
I'm more than happy to talk about that. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. So we've covered a lot, and I think we could probably talk more, couldn't we? But perhaps that's enough for today.
Quite frankly, anyone would tell you that.
No, not at all. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, Nokomis. It's really kind of you to join us today, and for sharing your experience. Really kind.
Thank you.
Anyone looking to get in touch with you or Maximus, we're going to circulate your LinkedIn profile on the notes, if that's all right. So they can. Are you happy to accept questions from the general public on how you're getting on? Okay, good.
Yeah,
just thought
I would check. If spare a few hours to listen to my answer, that would be perfect.
Cool. Okay, fine. Well, if it all gets too much, then everyone should go and just check out Maximus at www.maximusuk.co.uk. And to all our listeners, thanks for joining. And don't forget to follow the Appraised podcast on all the usual channels, our website, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all the others. And we'll see you again in our next episode. Thank you very much.